In my previous life, John had cancer, and everyone kept it from me. To set me free, he started cheating, verbally abusing me, and giving me the cold shoulder. I couldn't bear it and finally agreed to divorce. His friends then took the moral high ground, revealing his noble intentions and the truth about his illness. Devastated, I committed suicide. Yet after my death, John miraculously recovered. I watched him weep bitterly before my tombstone, only to see him remarry his mistress after his friends' encouragement. Back at this fateful gathering, John joked, "Let's divorce." Instead of getting angry, I calmly replied, "Sure." The room plunged into eerie silence. In the lavish private dining suite, I kept eating my bird's nest soup undisturbed. John slowly released Emily's hand. His handsome face, which had so casually declared love for another woman moments earlier, froze into an ugly grimace. He'd never expected this response. He knew how desperately I loved him. Even a joking mention of divorce should have made me throw tantrums. How could I utter sure so calmly? His scheming friends exchanged glances, their planned drama of watching me beg and cry collapsing spectacularly. I wasn't triumphant. My gaze swept across their faces before settling on Emily's striking features. Last lifetime, I'd considered her my best friend. I'd forgotten she grew up with John. However fiercely she defended me before, her betrayal cut deepest when it mattered. Emily shifted uncomfortably under my stare. She glanced at John, now glaring at me with clenched jaw, then forced a bright laugh. "Don't be mad. It was Kevin's stupid prank." I stepped back from her reaching hand. "But I'm not joking," I said, locking eyes with John. "Let's really get divorced." "John." Emily stood between us, feigning helplessness. Her acting had always been flawless. Had my ghost not seen her kick my tombstone with pure hatred, I'd never have known the envy festering beneath her charismatic facade. Though I didn't cause her current discomfort, the group turned against me. Kevin slammed his chair back, storming over. "Grace, don't push your luck. I already said it was a joke. Did you have to make such a scene? Can't take a little humor?" How ironic. They're the ones cracking jokes at my expense. Yet I'm suddenly the oversensitive one. Kevin's always had that sharp tongue. Barbed comments disguised as banter. I used to think that's just how he was with everyone. So I bit my tongue. Then I realized, it's only me. As John's wife, I've never been accepted by his inner circle. Ignoring Kevin's snide remarks, I kept my eyes locked with John's. When he saw I wouldn't back down, something shifted. He finally grasped the steel beneath my words. A bitter laugh escaped him. Then, deliberately, viciously, he yanked Emily into his arms, glaring at me like this was some twisted punishment. "Fine. You want this? Don't come crying later. Pack your things tonight. We'll file for divorce tomorrow." Right there, in front of everyone, he crashed his lips onto Emily's. It wasn't a kiss, it was possession. The kind that starts as collision and melts into something wet and hungry. Golden light haloed them like a film set. Her back arched like a bowstring under his palm. His fingers splayed across her throat. I watched Emily's half-hearted push against his chest melt into arms winding around his neck. Gasps erupted. Phones clicked open, filming the spectacle. Being closest, I saw everything, the tremble of her lashes, the way his thumb brushed her pulse point. My own lips parted, bloodless and shaking. Something fragile deep inside me cracked when John kissed her, something I'd kept hidden even from myself. I turned away mechanically. Rain needled my face outside. Streetlights bled into the gloom, tree branches clawing at the dark. A couple nearby huddled under the boy's jacket, laughing as they sprinted to their car. Their joy felt alien. At home, packing my suitcase, I found it, the transparent umbrella buried beneath sweaters. Cartoon doodles and black marker still decorated the underside. Memory flooded back, that stormy afternoon in high school, watching my quiet desk mate gaze at the downpour. He'd looked so alone under the eaves. I'd almost. Raindrops splattered the umbrella fabric now, blurring the doodles into Rorschach blots. He must have forgotten his umbrella. But there was no one left at home to bring him one. My heart softened unexpectedly. After a brief internal struggle, I thrust my own umbrella into his hands. "Keep it. Consider it thanks for tutoring me." I feigned nonchalance to mask my girlish flutter, surrendering my favorite umbrella. Without daring to meet his reaction, I dashed beneath my friend's shelter, urging her to hurry away. My companion giggled at my burning cheeks, our playful scuffle failing to stop my gaze from drifting back through the rain curtain. The lanky teenager in blue-white school uniform stood out in the crowd, his slender frame gripping my transparent cartoon-patterned umbrella with unexpected care. Rain poured from the heavens, yet all I heard was the deafening rhythm of my own heartbeat. The next day's drizzle found me unprepared for how my breath caught when John entered through the classroom's back door. My umbrella hadn't joined the colorful cluster in the corridor corner. Instead, it rested in John's pale, elegant fingers as he meticulously dried its surface with a soft handkerchief. Smoothing every crease, he stored it reverently beside his textbooks. 18-year-old John looked up, intercepting my fleeing gaze. His crescent moon eyes crinkled with a smile as he vowed, "I'll treasure this forever." Though unspoken, our synchronized heartbeats thrummed the truth beneath that fragile veneer of innocence. His promise meant more than mere umbrella preservation. Raindrops still glistened when I wiped my tears decades later, clutching the forgotten relic. Its yellowed plastic reeked of decay. Cartoon patterns faded. Metal skeleton rested beyond recognition. I sat vigil through the night, watching dawn fracture the darkness into stark silhouettes. Stiff-limbed, I finally dropped the rotting umbrella into the trash. The phone rang endlessly before a sleep-roughened feminine voice answered. "Hello? Who's this?" Emily's theatrical yawn faltered in the face of my glacial silence. After strained moments, she murmured awkwardly, "I grabbed the wrong phone. Let me wake John." "No need." My interruption came calmly. "Tell him the paperwork's ready. 3 p.m. at the Civil Affairs Bureau." I hung up before reactions could form. Though famished since yesterday, only nausea churned in my stomach now. The summer storm of our youth had finally ceased its downpour. They claim to love me, vow undying devotion, then turn around and sleep with someone else. Cheaters will cheat in the end, no matter the excuse. I remembered from my past life, when I accidentally discovered the truth back then. The heartbreak nearly knocked me unconscious. I lost all rationality, screaming accusations at both of them like some hysterical shrew. Emily wore apology on her face yet insisted it was all a misunderstanding. An accident. Begging me not to blame John. John himself didn't utter a single word of defense. He just let me sob and rage before him, demanding whether his past promises still meant anything. His silence felt heavy, as though he were the martyr bearing secret burdens. By the end, everyone took John's side. They said he had his reasons, that it wasn't intentional, that I shouldn't blame him. They were the ones who screwed around. Yet I became the villain. His icy composure made me look unhinged. I started doubting myself. Was I overreacting? Had I imagined things and slandered their pure friendship, pushing John to impulsively make their ambiguous relationship official with Emily? Numbly, I agreed to divorce. But after John handed me the papers, his health sharply declined. Kevin and others finally snapped, storming into my face, blaming me for triggering his collapse. They demanded if I realized John's self-destructive actions were all to free me from his terminal illness. We'd been childhood sweethearts, transitioning from school desks to shared vows. John was orphaned early. I was his only family. He knew I'd never abandon him, so he chose this cruel charade to drive me away. I barely accepted that he'd stopped loving me when Kevin's crew insisted John's cruelty stemmed from overwhelming love. He could have lived 2 more years. They hissed. But your drama worsened his condition. Outnumbered and gaslit. I shattered. After glimpsing John's comatose form in the ICU, I raced to the hospital rooftop and jumped. How foolish that seems now. Reborn. I choose to release myself and the past. Yet at the city hall today, I waited hours until staff left. John arrived late. Disheveled, wrinkled shirt beneath his trench coat. Hair sleep-tousled. He glanced at the closed doors. Exhaling ambiguously. Reschedule. He said flatly. No other choice. I told him to contact me when available, then walked away without another word. John suddenly spoke up. When you called me this morning, Emily answered. What did she say to you? His probing tone inexplicably irritated me. The resentment I'd been suppressing erupted as I turned to sneer. Weren't you two lying in the same bed? Shouldn't you know better than me? His expression transformed with startling swiftness, tension melting into visible relief as if confirming something crucial. You misunderstood, he explained with uncharacteristic softness. I drank too much last night. She took me home when I fell ill. She stayed to help, that's all. The absurdity of his explanation barely registered. Given our current situation, I couldn't fathom why he'd bother justifying himself. But realization struck when John suddenly coughed violently, his handsome features contorting with pain. Does my sickness mean nothing to you? He demanded hoarsely, deathly pale fingers tightening on my arm. I shook him off coldly. The man who demanded divorce now seemed furious at my compliance. After glaring murderously, John released me with a bitter cough. Fine. Go. The heartbreak in his strained voice meant nothing as I walked away. The crash came moments later. John lay unconscious on the floor. At the hospital, I reluctantly called Emily. She arrived swiftly with Kevin in tow. Before I could explain John's condition, Emily slapped me hard across the face. You cursed jinx, she hissed venomously. Will you only stop when you've killed him? As I raised my stinging cheek, Kevin shoved me to the ground. Try hitting back. I dare you, he barked, shielding Emily like an angry sentinel. My hands pressed against the cold floor, trembling with rage. Just then, the emergency room lights flickered off and the doctor emerged. Emily abandoned her confrontation with me, rushing forward immediately. Kevin followed close behind. But as he passed me, he paused. His expensive Italian leather shoe came down brutally on my hand still braced against the ground. At 6 feet tall with densely packed muscle, his full weight crushed my fingers. A soundless scream tore from my throat, hot tears spilling uncontrollably. When I glared up, the overhead hallway lights blurred his features into a vicious smirk. Go ahead. Call the cops, he mouthed with demonic relish. The words plunged me back into those suffocating memories of psychological torment and moral persecution from my past life. Ice water seemed to drench me from head to toe, extinguishing any thought of actually dialing 911. Reality crashed down. Kevin's family held immense influence. Reporting him would be like personally delivering evidence of my humiliation straight to his hands. What would that earn me besides mockery? He'd never dared cross this line before. John's protection had once been my shield. But now that my relationship with John lay in ruins, Kevin no longer bothered hiding his malice. It finally made sense. Kevin was Emily's attack dog. When Emily adored John, he'd loyally followed. Now that Emily despised me, his hatred burned unchecked. I sat numbly until the pain subsided and feeling returned to my limbs. Rising without glancing back, I fled the hospital in disarray. The movers helped pack my entire life into boxes, retreating from downtown's glitter to the mildewed air of suburban decay. The TV droned with outdated operas as I pushed open the door. My wheelchair-bound mother stirred on the balcony, sagging eyelids lifting at the sight of my luggage. See? Knew you'd come crawling back. She sneered, yellowed teeth bared in triumph. Ignoring her, I began unpacking. She fumbled for her bifocals, already dialing with arthritic fingers. Should have listened when I said stop reaching for the stars. Flat-chested. No curves. And now used goods? At least the Wilsons didn't saddle you with a bastard. Let me call Mrs. Taylor about her boy Ryan. The clothes in my hands slammed into the suitcase. Am I some desperate man chaser? If you love Ryan so much, marry him yourself. Last I checked. Has he even gotten out of jail yet? Is this how mothers treat daughters, pimping them to ex-cons? Her face contorted with reptilian fury. You should be grateful anyone would take damaged goods. Keep this up and you'll die alone, or worse. Cling to me forever. Spittle flew as she brandished the phone like a weapon. I turned away. The musty air suddenly too thick to breathe. The lump in my throat felt like a boulder I couldn't swallow. Reasoning with her was impossible. Her archaic beliefs had calcified into unshakable dogma. Even her own flesh and blood couldn't compete with centuries of tradition. Abandoning my half-packed suitcase, I shoved everything into my bedroom and slammed the door. I'll move out by the end of the week, I declared through the wood. You won't have to deal with me anymore. The whirring wheelchair approached before violent pounding shook the door. Rebellious ingrate. Mother's shrill voice pierced through. You'll go on that date with Ryan whether you live here or not. My face still burns from your divorce scandal. You want the whole neighborhood laughing at me? Her tirade continued. Metallic wheels clattering against floorboards. Ryan Taylor's family has connections. Who cares about those rumors? I'm your mother, would I steer you wrong? I jammed noise-canceling earbuds in, scrolling rental listings with trembling fingers. This house still suffocated me like it always had. My escape plan seemed simple enough, hide until John woke from his coma to finalize our divorce. Then life would quiet down. But fate loves curveballs. After another nauseous sprint to the bathroom, I stared at the twin pink lines. Last lifetime. I'd been too consumed by arguments with John and paranoid suspicions about Emily to notice my pregnancy. Now, with our divorce proceedings accelerated and John hospitalized from sudden cancer complications, Emily's faction hadn't gotten the chance to weaponize his diagnosis against me. Cold porcelain pressed against my forehead as I studied my reflection. This changed everything. Last time I died, I'd taken my unborn child with me. My knuckles whitened around the pregnancy test. This couldn't happen again. Not with the legal battle against the Wilson family looming. A child would complicate everything, but perhaps. By dawn's first light, I crept toward the front door. Skulking off to meet some tramp? Mother's silhouette materialized in the pale balcony light. Her voice dripping venom. I gripped the doorknob. Anyone's better than your precious Ryan. The slam echoed through the Taylor family estate. The outcome was unexpected. This time, she didn't argue with me. Instead, she said softly, I've already asked around for you. Ryan will be back in a few days. You should meet him. The door slammed shut behind me. Whatever she said next was likely the same old lecture. I couldn't be bothered to listen. I went to the hospital where John was staying. But instead of visiting his room directly, I lurked in the shadows to observe. John was already awake, and Emily had been by his side all day. Kevin rarely stayed long in the room, stepping out frequently to chain smoke in the stairwell. Yet he couldn't bring himself to leave entirely, torturing himself by watching the woman he loved shower affection on his best friend. That's when I descended the stairs. Hearing the noise, Kevin glanced up. His expression darkened when he saw me. What the hell are you doing here? He growled, exhaling a cloud of smoke. Didn't learn your lesson last time? I stared at him, then smirked. How does a privileged girl like Emily stoop so low? Knowingly being the other woman? Kevin's face twisted. Watch your damn mouth. He snapped, jabbing a finger at me. I edged closer, my tone icy. Changed my mind. I'm not divorcing John. That way. Your precious Emily will never get her happy ending. Though honestly, I tilted my head. A slut like her and a pathetic simp like you? Perfect match. Fuck you. Kevin's temple vein bulged as he shoved me violently. When I deliberately missed the next step and tumbled down the stairs, he froze at the top, glaring coldly until I curled into myself, clutching my stomach with trembling hands. My baby, I whispered, pale and shaking. The cigarette fell from Kevin's fingers. They rushed me to the ER. But the miscarriage was inevitable. I'd taken abortion pills beforehand. After all, when I opened my eyes, John sat hunched at my bedside in his hospital gown, eyes bloodshot. He reached for my hand but let his arm drop. The baby, his voice broke. It's gone. We'd tried for years. John had quit drinking, avoided business dinners, done everything right. The fertility tests were how we discovered his complications. Tears streamed down my face as I locked eyes with him. Then I spotted Kevin lurking in the corner. Him. I choked out, pointing accusingly. He pushed me down the stairs. The room went still. John turned to Kevin, disbelief morphing into fury. Kevin opened his mouth but said nothing. The security cameras would show his hands on me first. The next second, John lunged forward, his fist slamming Kevin's head sideways. He viciously grabbed Kevin by the collar, roaring with barely contained fury. Have you lost your mind? She's my wife. That was my child. Their brawl escalated with Kevin mostly taking hits, too guilt-ridden to fight back, until Emily tried intervening and got shoved hard by John. This finally sparked Kevin's defiance. What about Emily? He challenged, slamming John against the wall. What's she to you? The hospital room froze. John's gaze flickered to me lying pale and shattered on the bed, fresh from losing our baby. He swallowed his rage, coughing to mask the tremor in his voice. When Emily moved to comfort him, he sidestepped her touch with practiced ease. The déjà vu hung thick until John stated coldly, Emily's always been just a friend. Emily staggered back as if struck, betrayal etching her features. Kevin cursed, shoving John aside before dragging her out. I watched John summon nurses to move his hospital bed beside mine, resurrecting the devoted husband act. His venomous barbs vanished, replaced by saccharine promises. Even if it's Kevin, he vowed, cradling my limp hand, I'll make him pay for hurting you and our child. My pulse jumped traitorously. Then the mechanical voice struck, system alert, conditions altered. Mission timeline shortened. Host must complete ex-wife and first love Grace's willing self-sacrifice within 30 days. Failure results in permanent world assimilation. John's thumb stilled mid-caress. Our eyes locked as the unspoken truth crackled between us. Changed conditions. He murmured, smile turning serpentine. Something wrong, darling? I yanked my hand free. I need rest. He played the doting caretaker flawlessly, adjusting my blankets, monitoring medications, intercepting nurses who tried warning me about his staged illness. His performance was Oscar-worthy, erasing memories of him kissing Emily while telling me to live with it. I maintained cautious neutrality until the night I feigned sleep. His whispered phone confession slithered through the dark, relax. The system just moved up Grace's suicide timeline. She'll willingly throw herself in front of that truck within 3 weeks, yes. Once I regain protagonist status, we'll reset this world. The heart monitor betrayed my racing pulse. John's shadow loomed over my bed, syringe glinting. Should've pretended better. Sweetheart. He crooned, plunging the needle into my fore. Darkness swallowed me whole. Night fell, cloaking everything in silent darkness. John got up to smoke on the balcony, thinking I was asleep. That's when I heard it again, the strange noise. John spoke to it impatiently, demanding, System, what's Grace's current affection level toward me? 61%. The mechanical voice replied. John clicked his tongue in frustration. No wonder she's been acting like a different person since I brought up divorce. I moved too fast. After a weighted pause, he muttered, "That idiot Kevin must have done something behind my back. To think she'd abandon our child just to use me for revenge." My blood turned to ice. He'd figured everything out. The system suddenly warned, "Host. 25 days remaining." Got it. Stop nagging. John ground out, crushing his cigarette. As his footsteps approached the hospital bed, his voice echoed unnaturally clear in my ears. Despite the silence, the female lead and supporting male are useless. I'll have to handle this myself. The soundproof basement I built at home will make her beg to die for me. If she's too cowardly to kill herself, would murdering her personally count as completing the mission? The mattress dipped as he slid under the covers. The system's response vibrated through my skull. Affirmative. Next morning, my confiscated phone buzzed. John paused peeling an apple to check it. "Honey?" he asked with dangerous calm. "Who's Ryan? Why's he suddenly asking to meet? You never mentioned him." I kept my hand steady, reaching for the device. "A cousin who moved away years ago. Probably visiting my mom while in town." He instantly relented. We both knew my mother's volcanic temper when ignored. Her foul-mouthed rants had scarred him during our wedding preparations. The screen showed 3 brutal messages from Ryan: "Where? Address, come meet me ASAP." While John washed his hands, I texted Ryan the hospital and home addresses would save me. Then deleted everything. Replacement texts about family arguments and dismissal followed. Perfectly normal sibling bickering. Ryan's blunt communication style remained unchanged since childhood. He responded with nothing but question marks and asked if I was out of my mind. I didn't reply further because a pale, slender hand snatched the phone from my grasp. John Wilson scanned through our messages line by line, chuckling softly. Yet he didn't return my phone, instead powering it off completely. "We've said all there is to say. Rest a while longer, the driver will take us home later." My fingers clenched beneath the hospital blanket as I asked tonelessly, "Has your illness improved?" John answered evasively with a smile. "Home care suffices." The unspoken command hung heavy. Time was slipping away. Once back in that house, escape would become nearly impossible. Seizing the moment he left the room, I risked scrambling off the bed and bolted for the door. What I hadn't anticipated was John's trap. The instant I yanked the door open, I collided with his waiting chest. He seized my wrist with bruising force, sneering. "So you really can hear the system's voice." An hour later, I found myself locked in John's meticulously crafted underground cell. My last desperate hope now rested on that unreliable neighbor brother I hadn't seen in years. Despair crept in. Would Ryan even recognize the rare characters in the address? Maybe I should have thrown caution to the wind and called the police the moment I got the phone. In my memories, Ryan had always been the archetypal delinquent. 5 years my senior, he dropped out to roam the streets collecting protection fees while I was still dutifully attending elementary school. Our mother's friendship granted me some protection. I recalled him chasing down bullies who stole my lunch money for blocks, returning not just my coins but buying me candy with their ill-gotten gains. After I entered prep school and met John, Ryan failed college entrance exams and vanished into the workforce. The occasional rumors I later heard painted him darker: girls pressured into abortions, gambling debts, prison time. The protective older brother from my childhood faded, replaced by this stranger my mother recently suggested I date. Disgust had been my first reaction. How could I stake my survival on such a man? The chilling clink of bed chains echoed through the windowless basement as I shifted. Before the metallic echoes could fade, measured footsteps descended the stairs. John appeared in soft cashmere and linen, his sharp features softened by falling strands of hair. The very picture of harmlessness. Yet this man wanted me dead. He dragged the room's lone chair to my bedside, placing retrieved documents across my lap, divorce papers bearing my forged signature from my confiscated bag. John looked at me with a hint of sadness in his eyes. still smiling as he said, "You've got a terrible temper and stubborn personality. Until I saw this divorce agreement. I kept thinking you agreed to divorce me just out of spite. Why? Darling? Do you really want to let me go?" I found this utterly absurd. As if meeting this man for the first time. Staring at him. I enunciated each word, "You're trying to kill me. Yet ask if I'd miss you?" John's expression remained unchanged as he calmly explained. "You heard them, it's a mission I must complete. But after everything's done, I'll get one chance to save someone." His gaze intensified. "I won't let you die. Even though Emily's the female lead here. You're the only one I love. Don't you trust me?" Not distrust. More like, not believing a single word. Did he think I was still that gullible teenager from our school days? John sighed regretfully. "I do love you deeply. But if you insist on opposing me," his voice hardened, "I'll have to use harsher methods to achieve my goals." He vanished that very day. Footsteps echoed on the stairs later. A familiar man entered with vacant, unfocused eyes and stiff movements like a puppet. Yet Kevin wielded the blade with practiced cruelty, methodically carving into my flesh. As I screamed and scrambled into the corner, realization struck. John had used that system thing to identify my worst nightmare, Kevin himself. Just like our previous life. They were breaking me psychologically. John never appeared. But after each torture session I'd find his belongings, a cufflink. His favorite cologne, forcing me to recall happier times amidst the pain. This time when I awoke, the demon Kevin was absent. Instead, a porcelain doll sat on the bedside with a note in sharp handwriting, "Let's have another baby. Shall we?" Happy face. Fresh blood seeped from my arms into the rancid sheets. My matted hair clung to swollen eyes fixated on that smiley face. Something inside me snapped. "Aha!" The door exploded inward with a crash. Someone leaped down the stairs 3 steps at a time. "Sis!" The scream died abruptly. I stared blankly at the towering man in ankle boots and a black leather jacket. His buzz-cut framing sharp features twisted with fury. Materializing in this grimy underground chamber. Our eyes locked. Both equally stunned. John carefully wrapped his coat around my trembling form. "Don't be afraid," he growled, barely containing his rage. "I'm getting you out of here." The click of a bullet being chambered echoed. Ryan paused mid-motion but didn't stop, cradling me protectively as he turned to face the gun barrel pressed against his temple. "You think I came alone?" His voice dropped dangerously low. "Move. Now." John didn't flinch. "She's my lawfully wedded wife." His smirk held glacial malice. "Our private matters don't concern the police. No one's taking her from me." "You call this a private matter?" Ryan's arms tightened around me, his voice cracking. "Look what you've done to her." As tensions escalated, Ryan's next words pierced through my fog of pain like shrapnel. "Let us go if you still consider her your wife. Her mother, it's the end. Don't deny them this last goodbye." My mother. That perpetually scowling woman who cared too much about neighborhood gossip yet had no real friends except Mrs. Taylor downstairs. The woman whose youthful laughter had died long before I was born. Replaced by bitter rants about her disastrous marriage. They say she was different before marrying that monster, the same brute who shattered her legs during one of his drunken rages. I'd begged her to leave him at 13. Only to be slapped raw. "He's still your father." She'd screamed through tears, cementing my resolve to never interfere again. Yet this broken, superstitious woman who cowered from her own shadow had done the unthinkable. She'd murdered the man she insisted was head of our household. When police cars flooded our alleyway, their flashing lights illuminated the crowd's mingled horror and morbid curiosity. The woman who spent decades apologizing for existing had finally snapped, and now the whole world would know our shame. But she wasn't arrested. Because she had mental illness. Even I was shocked by this. I watched her produce stacks of medical diagnoses. Each document stamped with official seals from provincial hospitals. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. My mother remained eerily calm. Only I noticed the dates on those papers. Staring frozen for what felt like eternity. Neighbors began avoiding us afterward. They whispered that Mom must have been caught cheating, driving Dad to murderous rage. Why else would she endure beatings for years only to snap now? They feared yet scorned her, labeling her a ticking time bomb, petitioning the neighborhood council to evict us. Mom ignored it all, withdrawing into near-complete seclusion. The world condemned her. Only I knew the truth. 1 month prior, my biological father had molested me. When he tried forcing himself on me, Mom walked in. She transformed into a feral lioness, clawing and biting until he fled, leaving us clutching each other on the floor, weeping. I don't know what resolve she forged that night. Next morning, she knocked on Mrs. Taylor's door, entrusting me to her care. She confessed everything to the older woman, horrified yet furious. Mrs. Taylor immediately summoned her son Ryan, ordering him to escort me everywhere, school, errands, every outing. Ryan never questioned why. For weeks, he abandoned his usual gang activities, becoming my silent guardian. When police came a month later, I stood numb amidst the crowd, watching them lead Mom away. Blood stained her clothes. Yet she walked tall, scanning faces until her eyes found mine. Her lips moved, echoing the words I dismissed when fleeing our home weeks earlier. Would I ever harm you, baby? I never saw her again. She left no note. Only a property deed and savings account passbook on our coffee table, pathetic remnants of her existence. People say I appeared hollow-eyed at the funeral, tears streaming endlessly without visible grief. They didn't understand, my soul had died with her that day. I collapsed next to her wheelchair, exhausted. Mrs. Sue and Ryan helped with Mom's funeral arrangements, though truthfully, Ryan handled everything. If Mrs. Sue hadn't held me back, I might have crawled into that coffin to join my mother in eternal rest. I whirled around to find John standing not far behind me, clutching a silver pistol. The gloomy sky cast shadows over his black trench coat as a white rose peeked from his breast pocket like some morbid tribute. We stared at each other across the distance, his face growing paler by the second. His lips trembled as he choked out, "Sorry," before raising the gun. A muffled bang echoed. John crumpled to the ground, the weapon skidding into bushes. Ryan appeared moments later, casually holding the retrieved gun in one hand and a mud-caked shovel in the other. "What is this? A damn soap opera?" he grumbled, dialing 911 while keeping his boot planted on the unconscious John. The absurdity almost made me smile. I turned back to burning joss paper, watching flames suddenly spiral into a glowing vortex. The ashes swirled upward as if carried by unseen hands. When dawn broke, I heard the system declare John's mission failure. Our divorce sailed through effortlessly. Ryan's testimony and that damning basement evidence got John charged with spousal abuse and attempted murder. His company imploded overnight. Assets frozen. Illegal firearms charge tacked on. Even Emily ignored his pleas, while Kevin gleefully handed prosecutors more financial crime records. The golden boy turned pariah sat sniveling in court during sentencing. Watching him beg for leniency, I realized without his protagonist halo, John was just another pathetic conman. They gave him the death penalty. During our final meeting, the once polished CEO resembled a meth addict, wild-eyed and babbling about second chances. "Honey, you have to help me," he rasped, clawing at the prison glass. "The system's offering a reset if we..." I walked out as guards dragged him away. Some stories aren't worth continuing. Listen. You need to hear me out. I've cleared countless parallel worlds, been emperor, immortal, you name it. Help me now and I'll take you to any of those conquered realms for eternal luxury. Don't you love me? Just do this for me. That mysterious system always put me on edge. Cautiously, I asked, How exactly should I help you? John suddenly closed the distance. Desperation dripping from his words. My protagonist aura's gone. Find this world's new main character. Seduce him. Bring him to me. And I'll steal his destiny. How astonishing. Once the mask slipped off, John's audacity knew no bounds. I snorted coldly and turned to leave. He scrambled onto the windowsill trying to grab me, only to get yanked back by police officers. Honey! Grace! His voice cracked. You promised to stay with me forever. My steps faltered briefly before resuming without glance backward. John collapsed against the wall, murmuring brokenly. This isn't fair, system lied. You said it'd be simple. Who'd willingly die for someone else? I'm reporting this glitch. Let me restart. His meltdown faded like some distant nightmare from my bleak past. Daylight now bathed the world outside that dark dream. He'd never know. I did drown myself for him once. He wasn't worth it. By the roadside, I stared at the 8-figure luxury car, then at the tanned forearm dangling from its window. Ryan hid behind black shades like some wannabe gangster. Robbed a bank? I asked flatly. Ryan's eye twitched as he ripped off his sunglasses. Did arsenic season that tongue? Can't a guy earn honest money? He swung open the passenger door with exaggerated chivalry. I buckled in skeptically. Look. Ryan sighed. I might have dropped out. But building businesses abroad takes work. Businesses? I blurted without filter. Weren't you in prison? Tires screeched as he swerved to the curb. After composing himself, he deadpanned. Who fed you that crap? You actually believed it? Avoiding his glare, I suddenly recalled the rumor's origin. Ryan pinched the bridge of his nose. That old creep held a grudge after Mom rejected him. Still falling for his smear campaigns? Guilt flooded me. Aunt Taylor's kindness. Ryan shielding me as kids, how could I've distanced them over lies? My phone rang before more self-flagellation. It was Kevin calling me. I frowned sharply. What does he want now by calling me? Before I could react, Ryan reached over and hung up the phone. He restarted the car, his tone steady and reassuring. Don't worry about it. I've been arranging to take care of him lately. Now that John's locked up, he won't escape either. With me around, no one's gonna mess with you again. The last sentence, hanging in the quiet car, sparked a warmth like a tiny flame. Touched. I looked up to thank him, but unexpectedly noticed his slightly reddened ears. Ryan cleared his throat awkwardly. Then, with some hesitation, said, My mom mentioned you agreed to our blind date. Ahem. So, wanna come over for dinner tonight? She made your favorite dishes. I turned my face toward the window, watching the passing scenery and strolling pedestrians, suppressing the smile tugging at my lips, mimicking his fake cough. I chuckled. Sure.